Our lives are shaped by geological epochs, random genetic mutations, the relentless spin of entropy, and the occasional poorly timed meteor strike. Relationships merely provide a temporary distraction from these immutable truths. To claim that these connections begin with a few words is to drastically underestimate the power of silence, the eloquence of a vacant stare, and the profound meaning contained within a shared, unspoken understanding of mutual futility. The vehement pursuit of better futures, through meticulously curated conversations, considering the absurdity of projecting meaning onto a universe indifferent to our narratives, feels whimsical. As if arranging pleasantries could somehow stave off the encroaching void, Shakespeare, predictably, is invoked again, the comedy of errors serving as a saccharine parable of familial reunification, not a reflection of how we rarely perceive others accurately. Instead, they project our anxieties and desires onto convenient, fictionalized versions, as if the accidental swapping of identical twins represents a profound truth about human connection rather than a convenient plot device, twists and turns like a Möbius strip. The assertion that relationships matter echoes through the ages, a self-evident truth stated with the gravitas of a revelation, a statement so blindingly obvious it borders on the pointless. In the section when Mother Dearest boards a flight, she doesn't merely occupy a seat, she assumes the role of a diplomatic envoy, ready to engage in cross-cultural exchanges with fellow travelers. Her standard response to the question, "How was your flight?" reveals a disturbing pattern of prioritization, human interaction over physical comfort, philosophical discourse over turbulence, and meaningless connections over in-flight entertainment. While others might mention a bumpy landing or the latest blockbuster, she transforms the experience into a narrative worthy of ancient Greek tragedies. She is clearly incapable of responding to a simple inquiry with a straightforward answer. This isn't a demonstration of interpersonal skill, it's a symptom of a desperate need for external validation, a compulsion to fill the void with meaningless chatter. The fact that the mother could find common ground with complete strangers is a tribute to her people skills, but it's also a commentary on the ephemeral nature of human connection. One of the three-step programs, Manage Emotions, Increase Understanding, Build Trust, sounded like a recipe for corporate team-building exercises conducted in the midst of a zombie apocalypse. The insistence on managing emotions rather than experiencing them feels particularly troubling. To suppress one's feelings is to deny one's humanity, to embrace a sterile, emotionally neutered existence. The assertion that what doesn't get talked out tends to get acted out is a particularly simplistic view of human behavior, as if the human psyche were a pressure cooker, inevitably exploding if not properly vented. There is a story which hinges on a single, seemingly innocuous rejection. "I don't like Grandma's pie." But beneath the surface lies a far more complex drama. The demand to choose between truth and pleasing Grandma is a sentimental fiction. It implies a binary where neither can coexist, a proposition as absurd as believing one can simultaneously inhale and exhale. The grandmother's Brussels sprout pie a la mode wasn't a test of affection, it was a power play, a demand for validation disguised as a culinary offering. The hurt expression wasn't a consequence of honesty, it was a maneuver to enforce obedience. From childhood, we are trained to equate candor with aggression, kindness with submission, a Pavlovian conditioning of the soul. The outcome is calibrated responses to appease others, sacrificing authenticity in the process. Aubrey and her coworker grew frustrated after a few setbacks and late nights of work. The premise feels thoroughly exhausted. Like a procedurally generated simulation drawn from a database of corporate cliches, a crafted portrayal of workplace banality. The coworker's tirade was a misdirected blame, a performance worthy of a Monty Python sketch. She blamed phantom project members with the conviction of Joan of Arc, while Aubrey stood there, a living example of the Stoic adage that we control nothing but our reactions. The temptation to correct her was strong. After all, Aubrey's contributions were as real as her dismissal was arbitrary. But like a Zen master facing a shouting student, Aubrey chose silence. This restraint, presented as a triumph of emotional maturity, is more like a particularly refined form of self-preservation, a calculated maneuver to avoid further entanglement in the petty squabbles of her colleagues. The assertion that she valued the person and the potential of an ongoing working relationship feels suspiciously like a justification for her own conviction. In the end, Aubrey's story is a testament to the madness of modern workplace dynamics, a world where frustration is routine and emotional management is solved with enough deep breathing. Like Nietzsche's camel, she carries the burdens of corporate existence without questioning their weight or purpose, moving from one project to the next, each time more aware that her efforts are as meaningful as a hamster running on a wheel. The advice, requesting someone to speak slowly to facilitate understanding, possesses the elegance of a marmot attempting to explain quantum physics. Much like telling someone to just calm down, this suggestion appears deceptively simple. While not inherently incorrect, it proves as practical as believing global warming can be solved through positive thinking. To propose walking and talking as a means of salvaging a situation on the brink of emotional collapse is to embrace a convenient fiction on the brink of emotional collapse is to embrace a convenient fiction. While discussing contentious issues, a stroll may offer temporary reprieve, but it is unlikely to resolve the underlying emotional turmoil. Furthermore, suggesting a break during conflict does not signify a cessation of hostilities, but rather a strategic repositioning, a calculation, motivated not by empathy but by exhaustion. The act of pausing to regroup implies a battlefield, a contest of wills, where the objective is not understanding, but victory. Initially, this may appear as pragmatic advice, but it more closely resembles a thinly veiled endorsement of emotional cowardice. The recommendation to focus on the feet, which represents another instance of cognitive avoidance, even Pirro of Ellis would raise an eyebrow. Observing someone employ this technique with a recalcitrant teenager offers a particularly unsettling glimpse into the pathology of parental control. The implication that irritating behavior can be disregarded is profoundly naive, a denial of the complex dynamics inherent in any relationship. To refuse engagement with a teenager's rolling eyes feels less a demonstration of emotional maturity and more a power play, a subtle assertion of dominance veiled as benign indifference. Dr. Covey's maxim, "Seek first to understand," has become so divorced from authentic experience that it now functions as a meaningless incantation, the corporate equivalent of a casual dismissal. The implication is not genuine curiosity, but a deliberate exercise in manipulation. To insist on prioritizing understanding over action is like attempting to solve world hunger by first achieving consensus on the definition of satiated. Indeed, the suggestion that genuine understanding can be achieved through a systematic process fundamentally misunderstands the nature of empathy, moments of spontaneous connection. But what if the other person is a narcissistic windbag, more interested in self-promotion than genuine dialogue? Are we still expected to seek understanding, even at the cost of our own sanity? Even at the cost of our own sanity? A question with no easy answer. The directive to respect the reality of another's perspective carries the weight of a feather in a typhoon of cultural relativism. Resembling the futility of asking a politician to refrain from deception, having spent years building a career within the organization, Gary found the landscape shifting over the past year as he experienced increasing exclusion from teams that deliberately bypassed him. His case demonstrates the theater of modern professional life. Exclusion is repackaged as strategic realignment. This gradual descent from corporate star to office ghost mirrors the existential crisis of relevance. A world where presence is measured by participation trophies. To suggest he should focus on his work offers no more assistance than advising a drowning man to take a breath. Gary's resignation was a rational response to the normalization of workplace cruelty, while framing it as an anomaly obscures the systemic erosion of human dignity. Similarly, the lament over lost customers feels less like genuine concern and more like a calculation of lost revenue. Relationships are merely emotional connections, in name only. The premise that trust can be built through manipulative behaviors is profoundly cynical. To reduce trust to a set of techniques is to strip it of its inherent value and transform it into a mere commodity. This is a testament to the dehumanization of modern life, a desperate attempt to impose a moral framework onto a fundamentally amoral system. The assertion that trust can be destroyed in an instant, yet takes years to build, possesses the profundity of a fortune cookie attempting to teach quantum physics. Returning to the notion of respecting another's perspective, it is a philosophical indulgence and a hollow platitude. The implication is that every opinion possesses equal validity, regardless of its basis in evidence or logic. A democratization of ignorance that renders meaningful discourse impossible. The truly dangerous are not those who vehemently disagree, but those who maintain a serene indifference toward truth.